Hi, I'm Les Bruning. A few years ago, I was contacted by the owner of in Carter Lake of Lakeside Auto Recyclers, and he wanted a dragon. So we sat down and had a discussion, and I says, "How big? Big do you want this?" He says, "Big," and I says, 10 foot, and he says, "Bigger," and I go, 20 foot, and he goes, "Yeah, something in there." So we agreed on 25 feet tall. And I worked on it from May to May, so it was a year-long collaboration from the beginning. And I'd walk around the yard and I said, "I don't want this, I want this piece, bring this piece over," and I did. And then sometimes they would randomly scoop up some pieces of steel and they'd just throw it in a pile in front of where I was working, and every day I showed up, I would call them and say, "Well, I'm going to come in for a few hours," and so they would bring out a torch and a welder, and let me work as long as I wanted, and provided a lift for me later too as it got taller. As it got moving up, the customers that were coming in to sell their junk, they would hand me pieces and say, "Here, put this in there too." And so all of their customers coming in to sell their scrap metal participated in that too. So this is it. This is 25 feet tall, so it's just enormous. You can see the ring here. That's from a spool with cables on it. The wings back here, those are all parts of satellite dishes that they used to use, which they don't use anymore. And there's different parts. It's interesting that this is the feet under here, actually chassis from semis and then up on the inside here and the backbone up to the neck, those are some quite substantial I-beams in there. And so I kind of built the skeletal, and I needed a structure, so I cut the beam going here. I cut it so it would bend at the knees and folded it out. We welded back together and began to add parts on and on and on. And when I had it up, sort of the legs, the hip, and the backbone up to the neck together, and all kind of locked in together, I marked on the ground, then they lifted the whole thing up, moved it to the side, and then we bored 3 holes in the ground, deep holes, about 5 feet deep and 18 inches in diameter. And then we moved it right back on, and then I shoved a bunch of rebars down into it and brought the cement trucks out, and so we cemented it in place. So that thing, a tornado could go by. It may have ripped some parts off, but the dragon's not going anywhere. So it was kind of fun. But one of the main features on here, and you can see there's a lot of scales on here. And these little scales, the teeth that we have there, those all came from another job I had done. There's a building in Dundee that was being constructed at the same time. And I participated by building the screens, having the screens cut that are on the front of the building. So I saved all of those parts, and those parts became the scales of the dragon, which you can see used throughout. It was quite an adventure all the way through, and everyone was excited. In fact, if we look here at the claws on there, some guy came in one day and he goes, "Look, I got these. You gotta use these." So I put them on, and so all the customers, because they line up, they go right by it and they line up. So they all like participating with it too. And then a few months ago, they came, and apparently there's a movie out there called Jeepers Creepers. And I says, "What is a Jeepers Creepers?" So he referred me to the movie, so I did a little research on, and And this is kind of what the guy looks like. And apparently in the movie, it's a horror movie, first of all. So the guy, there's several images of him sort of on a post with his arms back over a crossbar. And so they wanted something like that, and they wanted something big enough that could be seen from a distance, because it's out on Highway 75 when you, just north of 680 when you go toward Fort Calhoun. And it's on top of the second hill. And so it's very prominent out there in space. So this one you can see where it's all up. So it's about 20 feet tall. So the creeper here, I just went and started picking up pieces there, and then they gave me stuff like here the cape that blows in the wind. These are all parts of old conveyor belts that they used in some of their machinery. So I cut that up and stripped it out and put it in there, and then they wanted crows flying around too, so I made crows, the bodies from a pipe, and the wings actually were cut out of an end of a big propane tank. Jack and Alan in the shop with me, they would suggest things, or they'd do the welding on it, and so it was just kind of a fun collaboration. And that's the way collaborations are. If you don't have an end in sight exactly what you want, but you sort of organically let it involved, and you have more than one person making the decisions, or you can fight over the decisions, that's always a fun way to work. I had a guy working for me for a while, actually John Patrick. He called himself Johnny Appleseed. But anyhow, he was really into LEDs and boxes and infinity boxes and things like that. And he also had done a lot of work at Metro Community College, because they had machines, lasers that could cut out patterns and so forth. Something I don't do within the shop. Sometimes I have it done through other shops. But in this case, so I drew the image. It's called, it's Prairie Wolf. And so I wanted it very tight, so we built the box here. This is the shape I wanted. I like the shape. I didn't like a pure triangle, but that shape. And then it's easy to compress an image into it. So it's a very close-up view. Basically what it is, it's a two-way mirror on front, and then a mirror actually which is polished stainless steel sheet on the back. And then this is pulled away from a little bit, so it creates another shadow pattern in there. So it's fun to see how that works. So kind of the technological part of it is what John really helped me with, and which was fun to do. I did another one a little bit smaller than this, and have others planned. In my spare time I will do more.